Hello, hello. It is the one and only 5D Transformations, and I'm here. And I'm really ready to drop some very powerful information for you all, really regarding intelligence and how in society they frame intelligence as IQ. And it's one of the biggest deceptions, that they've done, because you got to think about it. If someone takes an IQ test, right? An IQ test is based on fixed information that the person has to already have been taught. And this is where I want to make a big distinction, right? Um, let's look at IQ versus EQ. EQ being emotional intelligence. When it comes to emotional intelligence, that intelligence is actually a stronger form of intelligence because that intelligence uh, doesn't require you to have been given a preconceived idea of information. Um, Emotional intelligence can be understood by a child. It can be understood by an animal at times. It can be understood. It could be considered more primal. But see, that's one of the biggest illusions and lies that society has given to us, because they want you to think that more specified information equals more intellect, when in reality, more specified information means that it's designed to keep people out of it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's more intelligent, because you would think that the most intelligent form of knowledge is one that is more worldly, one that connects with everyone. If a child can understand you, if an animal can understand you, if another human can understand you, right? These emotive, that emotive intellect that we studying emotion, feeling. These are things that's the universal language. They say that math is the universal language, but really emotion is the universal language, because emotion is what everyone experiences. Whereas math, and animals aren't applying math, babies aren't applying math consciously, but everyone, babies and animals, are applying emotion. They understand emotion. You train an animal through emotion. You teach a child before they have words that you program them with by teaching them ABC or whatever language you have, right? So you might have somebody from China, you might have somebody from Brazil, and you might have somebody from Canada. Unless they speak the exact same pre-formatted language that they were given and taught to know, they can't speak the same language and decode the same things, which really makes it a lesser form of intellect, because it is not holistic. Whereas emotion, what do they say? Body language is the number one form of communication, right? They say body language, you can understand everything, 90% of what's going on through body language just by looking. We have people who are literally deaf that know everything that's going on. But when we talk about intellect, if I give you this IQ test, the first question I ask is, who made the IQ test, right? Like, who made the IQ test? That means that they view themselves, whatever group of people made the IQ test, they view themselves as the standard for intelligence. Whatever curriculum, whatever they put together as the measurables for the IQ test, that's how we're judging humanity's intelligence. Just the arrogance in that is insane to me, right? How can you call this an IQ test to judge people and races of people and intelligence through an IQ test? And the IQ test doesn't even have emotional intelligence involved in it, which means somebody can have a certain IQ, but be horrible with emotional intelligence, which means the IQ test does not give a good barometer of someone's overall intelligence, because it doesn't even factor in the most primal form of intelligence, which shows you the further that you skew down this line of an IQ test, right, is the further you go into these worlds that people create where they feel like they're so sophisticated and intelligent, but they're so disconnected. Because essentially they're just creating a mental, it's like mental masturbation. They think they're so intelligent using these words that are so intellectual, but people don't understand them. And then they go and say, well, I'm more intelligent than these people, right? But to me, the person on the street level, that where everyone understands what he's saying, to me is more intelligent than this guy in a freaking that thinks he's cool because he has a lab coat and says intelligent words. So people have a skewed idea of intelligence that was framed, constructed, and controlled by Western society. You know what I mean? We got to look at society in general. When we look at slavery, when we look at, the forefathers who essentially of America, who essentially, and just the people before that traveled the world and stole the true information from all these other countries by using violence, not by using intelligence, but by using violence, which shows you how emotionally unintelligent they were. Because in order to commit the amount of violence on a global level in slavery, right, in order to have control of the planet, literally destroying the planet itself through means like capitalism and things that we put together in order where we push resources, but we don't focus on the natural. That shows you there's a disconnect. And that disconnect is IQ versus EQ. You know what I mean? People value this idea of being intelligent, and they are completely disconnected with the emotional tonality of the planet. And they view people who are original people on the planet as primal and unsophisticated, when in reality, those people that they view as primal were naturally connected to the land. Just because you can create electricity in these different systems doesn't make you more intelligent. It means that you are going outside of nature and you're pushing more into your own mental masturbation. You're trying to create a unorganic world, right? And I think that's a reflection of the unorganic mentality that you have. It's not that the primal people, quote unquote, couldn't have come up with electricity. The reality is all the inventions we have now, they originate from inventions that we already made. The problem is other people didn't see the need to create these things because they were already one with the land. The same way that we got to look at TVs and phones in order to know what's going on, the TV and phone was tapped into their mind. There's already there's thousands and thousands of stories of people astral traveling, of people going deep into their mind, right? When you look at the Kabbalion, the universal laws, these things came from an inner world. People didn't just find these things online. When you really look at it, the internet's only been around for less than 100 years. That shows you how much we've survived without it for so long. And the only reason why we've had this exponential growth of knowledge is because people who the information originally was not for broke into other people's territories through violence, domination, conquering, being completely unaligned, being completely unemotional intelligent, or lacking emotional intelligence completely. They went in and stole knowledge and hoarded it for themselves, found out what it meant, and they used it against the masses to control the masses, and they hid it from the masses. Because there's no reason why I went through all these years of schooling and no teacher ever, and I never ran into an American curriculum that studied the universal laws, that studied the Kabbalion. Because those are the principles that are indisputable. And if you study science, you realize that science literally is built off of the 7 universal laws. The law of vibration, everything vibrates. See, you need somebody in a lab, you need a scientist to tell you everything vibrates, but they figured that out thousands and thousands of years ago before the word scientist even existed, right? So the question is then raised, who's really intelligent? What's really happening is the person that is emotionally unintelligent is the one that's trying to be the barometer for what intellect is. And that's why you see people misguided and disconnected. You know what I mean? You look at everything that they give you to heal yourself. Why is it all white? How do we live in a colorful world with fruits? Every fruit is every color but white. But when they give you a pill, it goes into a chemical lab and it all gets pushed out as like a white pill. That's not natural. And right now, it's just key to understand that there is another form of intelligence that exists, and it's our job to stay connected. Emotional intelligence is what's going to allow you to know who's trying to play you and who's not. Emotional intelligence is what you need in order to guide you and have that connection with your inner voice. Emotional intelligence is the part of you that is not programmed. It's the part of you that is following your heart. It's that mind, heart, body connection, mind, heart, spirit, right? You know, everything that IQ tries to push, or the intellectuals out there, the scientists, is meant to say that these greater forms of energy and understanding and possibility doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is what you can see right now. The amount of limitation in that frame lets you know already that these are agents. You know, that this is not natural. This is not organic. And what you'll find is, you know, the people out here that, like, I hate to say this guy's name, but Jordan Peterson is an agent completely. I mean, Jordan Peterson literally pushes racism. And one of the main things that he pushes with racism is that certain groups have higher IQs than others, totally negating the fact that certain groups have more emotional intelligence than others, or what is the IQ test in general? You know what I mean? And there are a lot of people like that have these fixed metrics on how they view intelligence. And you begin to realize that they're really limiting all of our growth and potential, because what we have to understand is we have to get away from thinking that the best knowledge is this knowledge that only this small group of people know, and understand that the best knowledge is the knowledge that we all can understand. Because one thing I said years ago in my video, when we got into 2020, you know, I said, you know, the highest level of intelligence is a form of intelligence where a baby can understand, all the way up to a scientist, right? If certain people feel disconnected to the information, like, that's one thing I love about the universal laws. When I explain the universal laws, I can explain it to a 5-year-old and they'll understand it, right? So everything vibrates. Your heart is always beating, right? Your heart always beats. Your heart cannot stop beating or you'll die. That's the law of vibration. The law of polarity, right? There's hot and cold. There's no arguing that. Yin and yang, the law of gender. That's the yin and yang principle, right? There's men and women. We can see it. When they come together, they produce life. You know what I mean? The law of rhythm. There's rhythm to everything. There's a rhythm to your heartbeat. So life exists. Your whole life exists because a rhythm is taking place. You know what I mean? The law of mentalism, everything is the mind. Well, if your mind is gone, then you're not even here. Everything begins in the mind first. You can't even know what you're going to do next until it's figured out in your mind, unless you're just mindless like a zombie, right? And by that point, you're not aware of what's going on. So you're really not alive anyways. I just named 5 of the laws right there. You know what I mean? And look at the law of correspondence. You know what I mean? Which states that everything corresponds with one another, right? It connects with cause and effect. You know, we all know cause and effect happens. You know, with every equal push, it comes back equally. You know what I mean? We talk about the law of correspondence. Whatever you think about with your mind, you connect with it. There builds a connection. If you watch a TV show, you're corresponding with the show. So when you're watching the show, based on your reaction to the show, you're going to get certain emotions, certain thoughts, certain ideas. Think about how this society uses all of these things to control us and limit us. You're watching the news. It's giving you certain things that's triggering fear, triggering concern. It's the election year now. You're now corresponding with people who don't even know who you are. What I'm trying to say is it's time for you to correspond with different things. But the more that they control what you correspond with, that is essentially mind control. So this is very important to know, because with my Pyramidian coaching, you know, and I'm offering some new things for you all. Like, I'm doing coaching officially with people where they can meet and we can really have a weekend where I can really break down all the game they need to get what they need done. I'm also offering the monthly coaching. But my thing about this is because I really am the type of person where when I'm working with somebody, I'm not working to take somebody's money and give them some fluff. I'm working with you because I am here to see a transformation take place. There's no way you're going to leave any kind of coaching, even my one-on-one coaching calls. There's no way you're leaving that, right? There's no way you're leaving that without having a transformation take place. And one thing I love about MBTI, which I teach on this channel, is MBTI completely corresponds with universal law. And when Carl Jung came up with MBTI, one of the founding father psychologists, he literally worked with astrologers and studied universal law principles to create MBTI. And people who try to say it's a pop psychology, tell that to the millions of people around the world that completely are mind blown when they figure out that they finally understand themselves. When they point to their friends and go, oh, this person does exactly what this says. I've already worked with so many people in MBTI. It blows their mind. I've typed families. and their whole family is like, how do you know us? You know us better than we know each other. Multiple times. That happens all the time when I do MBTI readings on people. So my whole point is this. Connect back to emotion. Understand the importance of emotional intelligence and connect back to the origin. Because what you'll begin to find is these people that have a high horse that think they're so intelligent, you can easily see the deficiencies and you realize that how weak they are mentally. And really that intellect that they have is really such a small part of intelligence, because that's just knowing what already is visible. That's just backward engineering what's already happened. The real person, right, is the one who can see a target that no one else can see. That's the visionary. You're able to go beyond what's seen and build on top of that. That makes you the true intellectual. You're able to discuss the things that aren't seen because you've already conquered what's been seen, that you're going beyond what's seen. Even if you didn't conquer it, you just don't care for it because it's already been conquered by somebody else, right? If you need to learn that, just read, it's just being linear. Read the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this is how you do this is how you do that. Everything's already laid out. So why are we trying, what are we doing trying to understand everything that's already understood instead of pushing our mind to gain new insights? Okay. An insight means insight, inner sight. That means you can see within. Everyone in this Western society is trying to look out here and see everything out here and view that as what's intelligence. When the word insight tells you, what do you see internally in your own mind? Because that's really where the intelligence exists. Even intelligence they all have the word in, yin. That's the yin principle. That's the in. You get what I'm saying? Right? I mean, it goes deep. It goes really deep. So with that being said, that's my message to you as we begin to activate the power. I'm not holding back anymore. I've been focusing on different specifications and things that I would like to talk about, but now it's time to just give you the straight up raw, real game to become the 1%er. That's what Pyramidian is all about. It's being at the top of the pyramid, separating yourself, being in polarity to the masses. The masses are at the bottom. If you are in polarity, complete polarity to their thinking, you exist in the Pyramidian. That's what my coaching is about. That's what my message is about. That's what I'm here to teach, because we are going into the age of Aquarius. We already are in that transition. We're going into the age of there was a shift that took place and now we're here. So that's my message to you. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to support the channel as we keep growing. And reach out to me if you are interested in coaching. You can send me an email at that's YOUR, the number 5, D, as in dimension, transformations. Your 5D transformations at gmail.com. Aside from that, I'll see you all in the next video. Stay blessed, stay powerful. And remember, let the God within you shine bright. Peace.